Well, it's the end of the En Primeur week, and I'm in a beautiful setting in Pomerol. As you can see, if you look closely behind me here in the distance, that is the famous church and the plateau, clay plateau where all the magic in Pomerol happens. And I thought I'd share some of my thoughts and some key trends or highlights or a bit of a summary of the week. And I'll start by saying it is a great vintage. There are some fantastic wines made in 2025. However, as with any statement like that, there is always a disclaimer that does not mean that every wine made in 2025 is the best wine that that particular property has ever made, or it is the best wine you will ever drink, or anything of that nature. However, there are some great wines in 25. And for me, the measure of a great vintage is that statement of great quality true across the spectrum of price or of region or appellation. And in this case, I will say yes. There are some fantastic wines across the board. So that's the first key point for me that I saw this week. Whether you are looking at Bordeaux Superior or Cru Bourgeois or regular Haut Médoc bottlings up to the really top stuff. And I'll also add the disclaimer to say I certainly did not taste everything. I did not taste all the first growths or all the great wines out of Pomerol. But across the spectrum, there is great quality. There is variance in style. The fact that it was a warm and a dry vintage with rain predicted for end of August, beginning of September, forced properties to think how they were going to react to it. Do they want to wait for the rain to allow for a bit of vigor and freshness brought back into the vines, or do they pick before the rain? So that's a story I hear a lot, and I can see the difference in the choices that the wineries made. Another point I'll highlight is that it is a good year for buying quality second wines. If it's a property that you follow and you know the property and you like the style of a particular property's wine and their second wine, this is definitely a year to find great quality second wines. I'm thinking immediately off the top of my head, the second wine at Pichon Comtesse Reserve, absolute terrific wine. The second wine at Montrose will be a cracker this year. L'Esprit de Chevalier, a wine that we communicate often at Brice and Burnett. Really good, both the white and red, certainly wines worth looking out for. So it's a great year for the second wines. And finally, I'll say the density and the tannin quality in the wines, both sides of the river, is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. There's a great contrast that the wineries achieved this year in creating wines that have real density and ripe tannin quality that just sits in the right place without the wines being overdone. As I mentioned in previous short messages, on the left bank, alcohols sit between 12.5 and 13.6, I think is the highest I've seen on the left bank. And on the right bank, I haven't seen many wines over 14, to be honest. There will be those that are over 14 for sure. So the wines are really in a great balance. I'm sounding French because that's all they say all the time, is it's all about balance. But in this case, really, it's a vintage where the wines are so well balanced. You have that contrast, which to me is a sign of a great wine and a great vintage. Is you want the power, you want the structure. We are in Bordeaux after all. These are wines that should have great tannin quality and should have a grunt and power. But by the same token, you want that freshness and linearity to just keep the wines in check. So depending on your view of what the rand does, which of course none of us can control or foresee, and if pricing holds as the Chateau are promising at this stage, that there will be no massive increases or surprises during the campaign with high prices, then I think 2025 is a great vintage to buy in Bordeaux. See you on the other side.